Today's guest is Cooper Harrison, a transformational leader, cancer survivor, and founder of Conscious Creation Ministries. Cooper's story is one of resilience, healing, and purpose. From being diagnosed with cancer at just 7 years old to overcoming deep emotional trauma and bullying. His path has led him to become a guiding light for others on their own journeys of self-mastery. In this longer than usual episode, and trust me, it's worth every minute, we explore Cooper's early experience with illness, his spiritual awakening, and how he's used tools like hypnotherapy, Reiki, and subconscious reprogramming to not only heal himself, but help others do the same. We also dive into powerful topics like balancing masculine and feminine energies, cultivating self-love, living with intention, and breaking through the blocks that keep us stuck. If you're ready for an honest, expansive, and deeply healing conversation, you're in the right place. Let's dive in. I want to talk about your name on Instagram first, because I love the Conscious Coop. Where did that come from?
It's really funny because I have had a journey with social media. It was more for personal, things and just kind of documenting my life. And then, when I wanted to be more entrepreneurial, I actually started in finance and cryptocurrency. So I was Crypto Coop, which is kind of wild, doing that 180. And, I had a lot of falling out with a lot of people in that space. And it was just very insecure and very toxic. And, instead of me trying to think about how can I have as much financial gain and material from whatever I want to do, how can I actually help people? And that was the 180 from going from Crypto Coop to Conscious Coop. And really, the reason why I call myself Conscious Coop on social media is because I want to embody the consciousness of our society and document the journey that we go through as individuals. Mm-hmm. And consciousness is different from the sense of you are expanding your awareness of everything around you and how everything has a purpose. Everything. Mm-hmm. The sun shining, the rain that falls, being in this room with you, being able to speak with you, and also the good moments that bring you laughs and smiles, and then the moments that bring you a lot of tears and bring you anger. Those all have meaning. That's what the embodiment of Conscious Coop really is. It's the embodiment of all my thoughts, words, and emotions that just come collectively together every day, and it's completely different. So having that awareness and bringing out that soft side within myself is what brought Conscious Coop to Instagram and, TikTok and other platforms.
I feel like you're I can see where you are very conscious and calm. You have a calm about you. And I don't know if because that's how I love to try and portray myself, is just zen and calm, until I drink a Celsius on an empty stomach like I did today. But
we've all been there, girl. We've all been there.
But, I do really think that comes off as emotionally intelligent.
Well, thank you.
And just all around conscious and intentional. And so, yeah.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I definitely have my moments where I'm not as calm, cool, collected. Yeah, for sure. I go through the emotions like everyone else does. I cry happy tears for sure. And I also, have fits of anger when, stuff doesn't go my way. Mm-hmm. And that's just normal. And I try to let people see all those sides, but I try to make sure that, emotions are good. I always tell people anger is a good thing. Anger, if you've ever read The Levels of Consciousness by David Hawkins, he has a book about it. And your frequency has different levels to it. So there's the bottom three, which is fear, shame, and guilt. Those are your bottom three levels of consciousness. So when you feel those, you have a low frequency. And then in the middle is that anger. And anger can actually catapult you to courage. So anger is actually the emotion that'll get you to act on things. That's what people don't, I think.
So maybe it's not always negative?
No.
Okay.
And that's because when you have anger, And I'll give you an example. I've had many people tell me I can't do things in life. There was one teacher I had in grade school that said I would never be a good writer. And I wrote 3 books, and I'm on my 4th. Actually, I got 4 and 5 this year.
Wow.
One's children's, one's more mindset related. And I was a bestseller on one that I've already published. So like that anger fueled me to be greater. I had a guidance counselor in high school tell me I was never going to play college football. And I let that...
That seems way out of their lane.
Yeah. Well, that's not
counselor, football.
Well, it's guidance counselors are there to nurture kids.
Yeah.
This guy didn't do that. And I don't hold a grudge against him, but it did motivate me to be like, pardon my language, fuck you, and let me do this. And I ended up getting a scholarship to a Division II school and played football 4 years. And, it's just that anger is not a horrible thing. The anger can create the courage. It just depends on how you use the anger. Do you use the anger to hurt people, or do you use the anger to help people?
Ooh, that's good.
There's a difference.
Yeah.
Because I think we're in a great, people talk about the state of affairs we're in right now as a world, and people view it as a negative right now. And you can view it as that. Or you view it as people are angry right now with the systems and structures that they want to make a change. And so that anger right now, collectively speaking, is giving us the courage to speak out for what's wrong and to change certain systems and infrastructures or create better alternatives. That's where we're at. Mm-hmm. And that's a beautiful thing. And when you get to that courage and you get to that acting, you then can accept the reality, which will then lead you to the highest levels of consciousness, which is peace, love, and bliss.
Wow. That's powerful. I mean, everything you just said, like, I'm thinking like, this is a clip and this is a clip, but wow, that was amazing. And actually totally shifted my perspective on the word anger, because as you were talking and explaining some of your own experiences, I was even thinking of different scenarios in my life where people have told me, oh, you'll never do that, or that's not going to work, or, and what's so funny is I'm very similar. Like, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, now I'm really going to do it. And I use that anger to get to that place. But on the opposite of that, like, there has been times where I have maybe let the anger, I don't want to say crumble me, but maybe overcome me a little bit more than I should have, instead of turning what could be a negative word into a positive word, So this actually is a great segue into what I wanted to talk to you about next. With, you were diagnosed with cancer at age 7, and then you also experienced a tremendous amount of bullying, like a very large amount, to where it kind of shifted you into, I heard you talk about this on another podcast, a suicidal mindset. And that is extremely heavy when you are an adolescent. And so I was curious how you dealt with maybe the anger that you were feeling on each of those times, and if you were able to kind of transmute it into, make it a positive word. Sorry, that was kind of a long question.
No, it's a wonderful question. Thank you. It makes me emotional at times, only because I am proud of what I've gotten through, and my inner child would be proud of me today for being able to accomplish not just the feats and the achievements, but it's more the steadiness and the ease of the heart, and not letting that hold me off, or close me off, I should say. Because when you create boundaries, or you put up your walls, you don't put up your walls because of bitterness. You put up your walls because of safety. You never put up walls out of bitterness. It's out of safety, because you were used to some sort of trauma or some sort of hurt. And when things get a little uneasy, you put up those walls, whether it's with a partner, friendships, family, opportunities. You put up walls because it's safe, because you won't get hurt again. Nobody can hurt you. So going through cancer, that 2.5 years of chemotherapy, people basically cherished me, adored me, and thought of me as this warrior, I guess. And, you get gifts, and people give you meals, and they, help take care of you, and all these things, It built up this subconscious wound that being a victim of something was the only way I was going to be cared for or be looked at.
Yeah.
I did these, I did Locks for Love. I did these assemblies, went to Disney World. And I thought of myself as somewhat of a victim. So I kind of gained a victim mindset, which is kind of crazy to think about, because there's no shame or guilt with having cancer, obviously, because it was out of my control. When I progressed through cancer and I was, in remission, that dynamic changed, when you hit middle school, and then everyone is changing physically because of hormones and puberty. And for me, it was a little bit different. I was somewhat of a late bloomer physically, but I was an early bloomer emotionally. And I noticed that the maturity level was just different. That's why I never really fit in anywhere. And with that came a lot of things said to me and a lot of hurtful actions against me. And it was a lot of setup for me to become that victim again and kind of cocoon into that victim again, and then put up these walls. And I never really liked hanging out with people I went to grade school with, because I went to a private school, so it was a lot of wealthy kids. And I wasn't poor by any means, but I was very just like middle class, working class in terms of like my family, with a bunch of rich kids. So they didn't think of me. They thought of me as a lesser. They really did. And not every kid was like this. But then when middle school hit and puberty hits, it's different. And the mood swings and everything else. And it was, I think, hard for me to wrap around sometimes as well. So I don't necessarily blame those kids at that time 100%, because they're also going through hormones and emotions, and they're going through so much in their own lives too. And it's
Did you come to this as you were an adult? Like, did it take you becoming an adult to finally have this mindset shift?
Yes, absolutely. And it was because so going through, middle school, being bullied, I actually got a Christian Leadership Award at the end of 8th grade year in my grade school, voted on by teachers. So the teachers saw me for who I was as a leader. And I kind of realized, who gives a shit what people think of you? If you're doing the right things and you're doing things out of love, the right people will recognize you. And at this time, it was the principal and it was the teachers. So then I get to high school, and, I'm kind of going through my progression, go to college, play football, and I was winning like these awards like throughout high school and college, and I didn't really care for that, because I don't know, I never thought of my value as those things. I mean, I did subconsciously, but never really showed that emotion for it, because people are like, why aren't you like celebrating more? Why aren't you happy more? And it was because like I felt like I had to be a victim of something for people to like notice me, or people had to see me in an achievement. They had to see me either win a trophy or they had to see me crying. It was never the in-between. And then I got out of college, and when it affected my dating life, that's when I matured the most. I was in a relationship with a bodybuilder, and she was taking Anavar, which is kind of like it's not exactly a steroid, but it's a performance enhancing drug. So it's a PED. And we had some heated arguments, and she threw things at me. She punched me. Then she, emotionally was very abusive, and, she cheated on me as well with her guy best friend from back home, because she was from Seattle. And, it just, but after I broke up with her and I kicked her out of my apartment at the time, I sunk into this hole for about 6 months. And I started kind of getting into the psychedelic therapy of my own. I went to EMDR for therapy as well. And I wanted to get into hypnotherapy, but I couldn't find a hypnotherapist that would take insurance. So
were you always like open to stuff like that? Or did it take this kind of like your world crushing to where you were like, you started seeking this stuff out? Because I know sometimes it can be one way or another. Sometimes you're just already like that. And other times it takes like a serious, like life altering moment to then seek this stuff out.
No, for sure. That's a really good question. Cause like I started going to therapy when I had cancer and my grandmother died of lung cancer. So I was going through that when I was like 8 or 9 years old. So that's when I started going to therapy. My mom took me to, because my mom worked for Mercy at the time. So she had connections with their psychology department. So it was a family friend of ours that was a therapist, and we worked with her. So I was in and out of therapy literally pretty much my whole life, and I still work with my therapist to this day that does EMDR. We're more at a talking stage now, I think, to just kind of work through some internal
I was going to say,
battles.
isn't EMDR kind of like this could be way wrong, but like a first step for maybe people that aren't very open to like, I'm going to sit on a couch and talk about my problems right away. Like I have heard that's a nice intro to therapy for people.
Yeah. And I think as a hypnotherapist, what I do with people as well is, I do a guided meditation visualization of letting go of a traumatic experience that created your limiting belief. So going through that, you don't have to tell me what it is, but you can visualize that and let that go on your own. So it's like I'm there just to hold your hand through it. You don't have to talk to me about it, but you can hold my hand and release this with me. Like I'll do it with you. And that is...
And you do Reiki also.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is that's another way of like letting go.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely.
I've actually heard of Reiki masters like getting visuals while their patient or client is going through that like releasing visual.
Oh yeah.
In their own head, like you'll get a visual of like kind of what they're seeing.
Yeah.
Is that okay? How cool.
Yeah.
Does it happen all the time, or is it just certain times that you'll have that happen?
It depends. And honestly, my expanded consciousness has led to enhanced abilities with Reiki. Like that's the thing. Learning Reiki as an energy practice, I thought that was 100% my calling. I was going to do that every day of the week, just working on, this type of stuff. But then I realized it takes a lot of energy, and it really drains you. So I try to like take on less people, like lower quantity but higher quality of the session. And I didn't have the visualization at first because I was so focused on, oh gosh, I hope this is working. I hope this is working. And almost not believing in myself, because like Reiki is somewhat subjective, because you're kind of going through it, and if anyone like did Reiki and like watched me do Reiki, they would think, oh my God, this person's crazy. Because you're literally moving energy that you can't see with your 3D vision, your eyes. Yeah. Like you can't see energy, but we have an electromagnetic field around us. Mm-hmm. We have an aura around us. You can't see that. So like when you work on that and you use your hands to work on that, it looks crazy. Kind of looks like Tai Chi. And you're just like thinking of some hippie with his shirt off doing like Tai Chi with someone else's like body laying down or sitting down. And that's what like you like moving the hands and everything. So once I got rid of that block though, which just took experience, I realized the visual side of things for me, and I'll do a quick story. I worked on a woman who had multiple personality disorder. And she was a singer, and beautiful singer. but she was bullied as a kid because of singing. And I remember when I worked on her that day, and I worked on her throat chakra space, and I remember I saw a little girl crying, like sitting down crying. And I remember visualizing myself comforting this girl. And my client that I was working with, she was like, she trusts you and she loves being around you. She finds you soothing. And healing that inner child wound around the singing, she started recording music. And then she was going out to LA like 3 weeks later and recording songs out in LA. And now she's working on her own like singles and, albums and stuff, and, doing music videos. And yeah, it's pretty wild. Like,
so it's almost like you were able to just connect to the piece of her that needed healed at that time.
Yes. And you know what? It also takes an open mind from the recipient side. If you're closed-minded, I can't work as well with you. This person that I worked with, the singer, she was big into the space. She worked at a crystal shop, so she's like very metaphysical. So like her being that open to it helped me gain that visualization process. The same with like other people that I've worked on that are very open-minded to it. If you're not as open-minded to this, I won't be able to see as much because you're not letting me see it.
Yeah.
Because it's all about consent. The first thing I have to ask is, do you consent to this? Even though you're paying me and you're being in this situation, I still have to ask verbally.
Yeah.
Because that's how it works.
Yes.
It's all about consent, and there's levels to it. I can only do as much as you want to see. I can only heal as much as you want to heal. That's what people don't understand. Like, healing is 100% your choice, actually.
Yeah.
You can heal on your own. You just pay people and you do these services because it's kind of like a fast pass at Disney. It gives you the opportunity to get there quicker. It's kind of like people that knowledge transfer.
Release the blockages that maybe you have and you don't realize.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you bring on more enlightenment and clarity into your life, and then who knows where you want to go after that. And I get that with Reiki. I get that with hypnosis and helping people with their subconscious reprogramming. It really just depends, on how receptive you are. And, it's okay that you're not fully all in. It's good to question the universe around you. I question things every single day. I question our systems every single day.
Yeah. Discernment.
Discernment is very key, especially in the world we live in now, because there's a lot of people that want to milk as much of certain industries. And right now the trendy industry is, spirituality and metaphysics and subconscious reprogramming. I see so many people creating like 30-day courses on, I can change your mindset in 30 days. I can change your life in 30 days. And I'm like, it doesn't work like that. You don't, just because you do something doesn't mean you're going to get it right away. Unfortunately, Amazon is the reason behind that.
Yes.
And Netflix.
Amazon. You're great, but ruining things at the same time.
It creates a lack of patience.
Yes.
We don't have patience as a human race. And we forgot how to enjoy the journey while we're at it.
So true.
Yeah. Because your spiritual enlightenment, I've been on this journey for 5-6 years now. Ever since COVID started. And I did my first literal guided breathwork meditation, just learning how to breathe properly.
Was it spiritual awakening that prompted this 5 years ago, or?
It was funny. I was in that abusive relationship as it started, because it was during COVID. Actually, it was before. And it happened, I truly believe, I started meditating during COVID, doing breath work, and then I got into Joe Dispenza, and then I got into all these.
Joe.
Yeah, exactly.
I love Joe.
Eckhart Tolle.
Yeah.
And then that's when I met my partner, the abusive partner. That's when I met her, pretty shortly after that. And I truly believe the universe was trying to tell me that was my last mountain I had to climb. It was that last mountain I had to climb to become this person I am today.
I have chills. That's wow. Profound.
Well, I grew up Catholic, and I grew up loving Jesus. That was my thing. And, I still do. Rather, whatever your religion is, listening to this, I don't disregard that. I just, the things I know about religion, I've stepped away from religion. But I will say the message of Jesus and how it's stated is what I try to follow the most. And that's what I want to embody the most, is Jesus Christ, Yeshua. And in order to do that, you have to create a soft heart. Because, like, it's funny, a lot of men specifically, come out with these kind of red pill type of agendas, and they're super masculine, aggressive, which masculinity is not wrong, or masculinity is not toxic. It's the people that come in and say, this is what a man truly is. When we had a guy in the Bible that, like, literally walked in a more feminine presence, actually. Because Jesus was a man, he was a masculine leader, but he was very soft-hearted. And that's just how...
I've honestly never heard anybody say that about Jesus. As I'm thinking about it in my head right now, I can see it. I can feel how that would be. He walked in both energies,
100%.
But also very feminine and wow.
Yeah. Because that's the only way you actually gain that enlightenment, is you have to receive both.
Yeah.
Because when you look at the masculine and feminine, and actually I'm working on, it's called conscious coupling. I'm working on with a friend. She's from Madison, Wisconsin, and she's awesome. She's into the holistic wellness and stuff, and we're working on kind of like a masterclass for couples or singles that are looking for their divine partner. We're talking about the divine feminine and masculine, how to merge the two together in a relationship. And it's not just the woman has to be feminine, the man has to be masculine. It's actually, how can both genders embody both? Because you also have same-sex couples, same-gender couples. Mm-hmm. All right, if you have two women in a relationship, like, they have to balance the masculine and feminine together. So why can't a man and a woman do the same thing?
And utilizing certain energies for certain things in your life, too.
100%.
I've heard a lot of people, I've actually talked about this a couple times on the podcast, and I know one thing that they all mention is it's okay for a woman to have that masculine energy be a little bit stronger than the feminine energy sometimes. And that's in times of building businesses, being an entrepreneur, sometimes, I don't know, purchasing, investing or whatever. You have to embody more of that masculine energy. Whereas then when you're not in those zones, you can resort back to that feminine. So balance. Exactly.
100%. There's actually my argument to balance, or my argument to discipline, because that's where masculinity is being sold the most right now, is discipline. Mm-hmm. Waking up at 5 a.m. every day, cold plunging, meditating, journaling, making a coffee, breakfast, you got to wake up at 5 and then you got to do all these things before you go into work.
I hate that.
I do too.
I honestly, I've always felt this, but sorry to cut in.
No,
but
I'm glad you said it.
I hate that. And I love that you're saying this, because I think I've said it once on here that I thought that I needed to do that to be any sort of success. And some people listening to those podcasts, or those certain people talking about it and really drilling it into people, that might work for some people. I am not one of those people.
Yeah.
And so I think we should just make it a little bit more open-minded of hey, everyone's not like that, because I've tried it and it was miserable. It was almost counterproductive for me.
Do you know what the greatest discipline is? Balance.
The greatest. Okay. Wow.
It's balance. And the reason is because the greatest discipline is balance. The proof is when you're able to walk away from whatever it is you walk away from, can you function as a person? And I say that because can you walk away from a job and still have a sense of purpose, a sense of identity? Could you walk away from an unhealthy situation? Could your kids move out of your house and you could walk away from being a parent? like as an identity, and feel whole still? Can you walk away from not doing a meditation every day or waking up at 5 a.m. every day and still being purposeful and driven and doing things and being productive and doing all the stuff you need to do? Can you do that without doing a cold plunge and all this stuff at 5 a.m.? Can you do that by just waking up at 7 a.m.? I challenge you, if that's your routine, to not do that for a week. And if your mood is off and you're an asshole to people or whatever, that's not discipline. Discipline is balance. Because you have to fully be able to step away from something. I've done it plenty of times. I've stepped away from relationships, business opportunities. I've stepped away from things because I'm like, I don't need that to feel whole in myself because I already feel whole. It's a lack of acceptance of yourself if you need this discipline, if you can't balance it.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I would love to go back a little bit to you being a Reiki master.
Yep.
And just your experience of being a child that went through cancer. Have you yet or had the thought to perform Reiki on children with cancer?
Oof. I've never done it before. I've actually never performed Reiki on children, and I'm not sure why, actually, now that I think of it. And I think the only component that's an obstacle here is religion. And I say that because I've had run-ins with like priests that have called me demonic for what I do.
That to me is just...
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good. I don't...
No, it doesn't.
Because I actually have friends that have
yeah.
sent me messages regarding what I enjoy to, you know, how I practice spirituality.
Right,
and
right.
It's just because I'm not, you know, married to a religion or in a church. I do demonic things. Is what my message is.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you know, systems would fall apart if we talked about God being internal, not external. Then you wouldn't rely on churches, and then religion would cease to pretty much exist, unless they're
100%.
religions surrounded by internal teachings.
That's what I always say. I'm like, I'm good with God. Me and him, we're tight.
Yeah.
Okay? I just do it a different way than you.
Yeah. And, you know, God is, you know, you can call it the universe, you can call it God, whatever, your highest self, whatever you want to call it. Him, her, they, them, like whatever.
Universe. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's universal. And to be honest with you, who cares? If you're a loving person that just truly treats people well, who cares how you address or how you attend or how you utilize your Sundays? Who cares?
Amen.
I've met amen. Thank you. I've met atheists that were not great people. I've met atheists that were one of the most down-to-earth, light-hearted people. I've met Christians or Catholics that are horrible people, and vice versa.
Yeah.
My parents are Catholic. Like, they still go to church and everything, and they're great people. And then I've met vice versa Catholics that
I grew up Catholic.
done horrible things. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm still in a Catholic church on Easter.
Yeah.
Because I do it for my grandmother.
I do it for my parents.
Yeah. And, you know, I know it just lights her up and makes her happy. And I'm not burning up in flames when I sit in the pew. You know, I'm still like, it still feels positive and uplifting and in just a different way than I prefer every Sunday. But,
of course.
Yeah. I mean, I still am somewhat practicing.
Yeah, so, you know, trying to invoke Reiki for children specifically, there's definitely like a niche group of parents that I have to kind of understand in terms of what parents would leave me with their child to do, you know, this practice and in terms of this spiritual practice. Kids with cancer, I'd love that opportunity for sure. And that would be something I'd just even do for free, in all honesty.
It's my first thought every time I see a child, like on Facebook or whatever, you know, be diagnosed with cancer. And I'm just like crushed reading it, you know, because I put myself in the shoes of the parents. envision my kids getting that same diagnosis, and I'm just like, I would be beside myself, And so my first thought is like, gosh, I wish I could just message them and say, hey, have you ever thought of this practice? I know me personally, mother to mother or whatever, I would 1000% be, looking into Reiki options for my children if we were in the same position.
100%. And there are so many studies done now by like Harvard and Ivy League medicine institutions. They're doing studies on Reiki now and how there are many benefits, not just from the mental side, but even the physical side, on how it heals people's nervous systems and it heals people's brains. And there's just a lot of beautiful things. And there's like theories around Yeshua, Jesus, and how he actually studied Reiki when he took his break. There's like a biblical gap of like 10 years before he, was crucified at 33. There's theories that he went to India to study, or what was India at that geographical location. I'm not really sure how the geographical makeup was of Earth at that time. That gap, there's a theory that Jesus went to India and was studying like Reiki and those just kind of spiritual concepts from different people. And, there's definitely some out-of-body experiences that happen when you do Reiki healing. And it's more than just the spiritual concept. It really is your mind and your body that also can heal. And one thing I love about Chinese medicine is, with Chinese medicine, if you study it, they study everything on a cellular level, which makes sense because we kind of study things here in the West from just like your arm's broken, your arm's broken, or, whatever the case may be. We study it from like just like what section is bothering you. Chinese study it on a cellular level. They believe in the cells have everything.
Is Reiki considered Chinese medicine? Is that a dumb question?
No, it's a good question. I would say, I'm sure, well, it was created in Tibet. So that's where it originated, because I'm Tibetan Usui Reiki. That's Holy Fire Reiki is what I'm certified in. Okay. And that was started in Tibet, Southeast Asia. So technically it's like Southeast Asian medicine, but I'm sure Chinese medicine adopted it long before we're adopting, because like in the West, we just started adopting it really like in the past. I mean, it's still like 100 years or 200 years, but I mean, still like we just adopted it compared to like thousands of years of Asian medicine. And, the Chinese study the cellular level, and now we have naturopath practices that study cells, and that's what they create their content on nowadays. And they, post about how on a simple level, like when your cells are overloaded with toxins and garbage, like that's when your acidity rises, because your cells are just spitting out like acidity in your body. And that's why like your body's like inflamed with cortisol and stuff. And it's a really cool breakdown because it's like almost elementary, but it's so easy to understand. And that's why like the cells, that's how you were literally created. Yeah. You were created from one cell. So studying that and trying to heal the cells actually makes the most sense. So it's pretty cool to like have that study, and then Reiki can communicate your mind, body, soul together. So you can communicate to your cells through the brain and say, hey, let's reverse aging, or hey, let's like stop feeling pain in this area. Hey, let's, feel good about ourselves. Let's lose weight. When your mind can tell your cells to operate too. Which is a way deep rabbit hole, but yeah.
I mean, it makes perfect sense, from a cellular level. So I would love to go into hypnotherapy too, because this is something I'm curious about. I feel like I have like a general idea, but I would love for you to take us into what you do with clients, like from start to finish, what it looks like.
Yeah, so I have a program. I mean, I can do it from an hourly basis, but I do have a program called the Quantum Creators Program. Some call it the Heroic Path. It just depends on For the older people, I call it the heroic path. The younger people, I call it the quantum creators program, because that's like the new buzzword is the quantum field and, quantum physics and mechanics. And I've studied all these things. I've learned from different doctors about, the quantum field and quantum leaping. It's really cool how we're all tied to multiple timelines.
Do you know the TV show? It's like an older one called Quantum Leap.
Yes.
My grandmother and I used to watch that, which is so crazy because she is like devout Catholic, like major. And I remember as a kid we would watch that. And it's so crazy because I have always been kind of like a metaphysical minded child, and then grew into an adult and still am. And so, it was interesting watching that as a kid. And I feel like it just kind of made me so open-minded already. And so now as an adult, we are hearing a lot more about quantum and quantum leaping and all the things. And so I find it fascinating, almost to the point where like it makes my brain hurt a little bit, because I'm like, wait a minute, okay, it's a lot. It's a rabbit hole for sure.
And one thing I'm liking about Marvel with what they're doing with their movies right now is they're kind of explaining what the timeline theory is, and how there's multiple versions of yourself, and it's in different timelines, and how they can actually they morph together through your decision making of jumping to different timelines and whatnot. So there's like multiple versions of you out there right now. There's multiple versions of me,
which is scary.
There's an evil. There's an evil.
Like, it's scary to think about.
There's definitely like an evil version of me out there. There's an evil version of like you. There's like even like a higher level version of you out there right now that's kind of waiting for you to catch up. There's so many versions of you, and the point is like you make the decision to choose what person you want to be. And that is the power that a certain group of individuals don't want you to know. And that's why they try to teach you these limiting beliefs through music and TV shows and movies and books. And there's just, a lot of things that want to keep your vibration down and keep you thinking you're small. Because if you do think you're big, it's when you're most dangerous. So with hypnotherapy, you can do one session with me, or you can do my program, which is 2 sessions a month. And basically what I do is I go into conversation with you and talk about what's your limiting belief, and we'll do muscle testing. So basically we'll do a sway test, and I'll just ask you yes or no questions, and your body is going to sway one way or another. So like when you stand up and you say, my name is Cooper, if I fall forward, that means yes is forward. If I fall backward, that means yes is backward, because my name is Cooper. So it's just trying to figure out what yes and no is. So then I ask,
And this is before you do anything. Like this is like the first, you don't put us into a meditation before this or anything. It's just...
No, I put you in I definitely put you in a relaxed state.
Okay.
But the thing about your subconscious is it's ingrained in your body. So what you don't think of yourself consciously, your subconscious is going to tell you. So you may think, so let's say we're going through progression. We'll say, I'm having issues with relationships. We'll just go with the relationships. So I'll like go through the run of the mill of, I am, Cooper, and I believe I am unworthy of receiving love. If you fall backward, that means no, because we already confirmed falling forward was yes. If I do fall forward, that means yes. So I have a limiting belief, whether I believe it or not, because I'm like, okay, I said that to myself, but I think I do love myself. But then it's like, oh, no, I don't. There's something there.
Yeah.
And then it's like, boom. I had this thing happen when I was 12 years old. I never thought I was worthy of receiving love from parents, friends, family, whatever, unless I was like outputting something great. Unless I'm a people pleasers come to mind the most. Those are the ones that do not fully love themselves. And that's the toughest thing, because like I hold you accountable for how you think. And that's like the toughest part for people to like really lean into the most, because admitting that there's a problem is the hardest step. My problem I had to admit was I was a victim. Like I created this victim mindset, and I had to reprogram that. But I had to address the problem first. And I was like, I'm not I don't think I'm a victim. What? And it's like, yeah, you do, because you do these patterns that you want to be seen as a victim. So I'm like, yeah, no, I need to fix that. So yeah, doing those exercises, we get to the root, and then I'll do a therapy session, and that therapy session, will go deep. It takes literally like 30 minutes to do. It's like a 30-minute meditation, so it's pretty long. But the thing is, I go through exercises to deepen you are fully deviated from society and just like your waking consciousness, because I go through steps that get you into different brainwave states. Have you heard of the brainwave states?
Mm-hmm. Like theta.
Yeah.
Beta.
So I get you into theta.
Okay.
I get you from the beta wave all the way to theta. So we go to alpha and then we go to, theta. So we're in that REM sleep. What's the REM sleep is literally the most potent sleep, because that's where you heal. It's where you heal the most. People don't realize that. EMDR, eye rapid movement, you do that when you're in REM sleep. Your eyes move back and forth. It's very creepy, but it's
I feel like
healing.
this is a lot of like trust that I would have to have in you.
100%.
Because this is making me freak out, but maybe that tells me I need to. But I also am somebody that like I feel like I need to do this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I am so like in my head, I have a hard time like separating from my thoughts.
That's good.
My conscious thoughts, anyway.
But that's good that you question me, because it's a good thing that you just question reality and you question. Like you definitely want to make sure people are in the right, intentions with you. And that's why like with these types of meetings and this type of work, I just try to be as fully transparent, clear, vulnerable as I can. And, when you talk about at the very beginning of the show on how I was just like a calm spirit, that's what I bring everywhere. And that's what makes it easier, I think, for people to trust me, is because I have that calm energy about me, and it's not threatening. It doesn't feel like I'm trying to just take money from you. It doesn't feel like I'm trying to use you. It's really like this organic connection where I don't want you to just be a customer. I want to be your friend in a way. And it's funny because people are like, you got to separate business and like friendship. I'm like, no. There are clients of mine that I've worked with. I support them all the time. Whether it's texting them randomly saying, I hope you're having a wonderful day, supporting them on, Instagram.
I feel like you've supported me, and we just met today. So I haven't even had your services yet, and you are so like positive and uplifting. Like I can always count on a nice like or a message from you.
For sure.
It's great.
Well, I mean, I think that's what brings that trust, because you shouldn't trust people like right off the bat. In terms of commerce, I would say. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's good to trust people like in friendships and things, but in terms of working relationships, trust definitely has to be earned in certain regards. And that was a boundary I had to set with myself better, because I trusted people too easily. And then I set the boundary of finally just like easing into that. And it's actually created better versions of myself. So it's a good practice. And in terms of someone trusting me with their mental well-being, like I said, you don't have to tell me one iota of what happened to you as a kid or as a young adult. There have been things that have happened to me in terms of like lots of different traumas that I've had to work through. There was one that created a lot of intimacy issues with relationships where I was harmed as a 12-year-old, and that also created the distrust with, the Catholic Church and, certain aspects of my life. And then it kind of dove into, romantic relationships, because I thought those were always transactional. So then I had to heal that. And once people kind of understand that with me, and they know I've done that hard work where it sucks, and it's kind of hard to admit sometimes too, like talking about it. But the thing about vulnerability is kind of seen now as weakness. or a negative connotation, where being vulnerable is actually a good practice, and it's actually a very feminine practice. Femininity is emboldened by vulnerability, and I've had to embody that more, and that's why you see that calmness about me, is because I've kind of mastered the art of the feminine vulnerability that women just naturally have, and it's a beautiful thing. So in terms of that trust, it's earned and it's built, and I truly believe it's earned by vulnerability, in a sense of, I just want to connect with you and just let you know you're not alone. Because I've had those, suicidal thoughts, and I've worked with a wide range of people, where I've worked with alcoholism, drug addiction, money mindset, it's stuff as light as I just want to make more money, which is great. That's fine. I can help you get there. Mm-hmm. I've worked with alcoholism, drug addiction, pornography addiction. That was probably the craziest one I worked with, because that says a lot about someone in terms of character, that they're willing to admit as a person, whoa, I have a porn addiction.
Yeah.
And talking about that with someone is oh my God, that's...
Because saying it out loud is the scariest part.
Oh my God, yeah. Saying pornography right now, it's kind of nerve-wracking. I'm not even the one with the pornography addiction.
Yeah.
This is a client I had, and it's just funny because it's such a word that it's we can't talk about it because we just can't talk about it. But we need to talk about it, because that's the only way we're gonna grow. You have to have those hard conversations.
Right.
So I guess with the trust part, it's having that honest conversation with yourself, that it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to need help sometimes. We all need help in a certain degree. Mm-hmm. And it varies. Sometimes it's man, I need the mental help, I need the spiritual help, or the physical help. And there's levels to it. I need my husband or wife to help me with, with dishes tonight, because my energy sucks and I'm fucking tired.
Right. I've been there.
I need help, maybe I need help financially, and I need a venture capital firm to invest $500,000 in my new startup. I need help getting closer to God through whatever spiritual, compass I need. Help is a word that it's okay to say, I need help. It's okay to say that. And we just, I think we're too prideful as a society to admit that.
I love that we ventured this way, because that was actually one of my questions that I wanted to ask you, because I've heard you actually talk about this before on another podcast, about how kind of goes back to the balancing of the masculine, feminine, but more so just that men find it so difficult to be vulnerable, but and to also allow themselves to balance both masculine and feminine energies. And sometimes I think it leans very toxic masculine almost, because they're so scared to let that wall down. So can you touch on that a little bit, but then also explain to a listener who might be a man of how you embody more of a healed masculine who does balance those energies and isn't afraid to be vulnerable? Because you've been very vulnerable on this podcast alone. So for anyone who is a man and listening, or not, and maybe has someone that they can help with your advice.
Andrew Tate's a fucking idiot. I just had to throw in a little bit of humor. But yeah, so you're 100% right. I think we've given the mic to the wrong people, and I wouldn't say that's our fault as a society. There, like I said earlier, there's a group of people that own a lot of the world. It's a very small percentage of people. It's 1% owns 99% of the world, and I mean that in the sense of infrastructure and systems and things of that nature. So they put a lot of stuff in front of us, and we don't necessarily pick and choose that, because psychology states, if you throw something in front of someone and repetitiously throw it in their face, they're going to eventually just consume it and just normalize it.
So you're talking social media.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So social media, it is my favorite thing and least favorite thing all wrapped in one, because it's given the power to have a voice and to literally launch yourself into situations that you couldn't do in the past without social media. It was like you had to do radio, TV, like traditional marketing, and now you have this tool in your fingertips, and you can organically and for free monetize yourself in a way that creates yourself as a brand, and it's amazing. Now, algorithms push rage bait, clickbaity shit. So basically, what I mean is your
clickbaity shit.
Yeah, clickbaity shit. That's not a very intellectual word.
You should patent that.
Yeah, clickbaity shit. Yeah. I'm not about the clickbaity shit. And that, I tried that method when I was growing on social media, and I just hated it. It felt so wrong in my soul. So the toxic masculinity that you hear and see all the time, it's people that are perpetuated by an algorithm. And a lot of these people that have these microphones, I mean, they have very well-connected resources, and it's usually their families. Like, if you do research on a lot of these people families, like, they were in like the CIA or like deep government organizations. Wow. Or they were or their parents are actually really wealthy, like when you find out about Jeff Bezos, like how his parents gave him like $300,000 to start Amazon. It's like, well, fuck, that would have been nice. I don't have to repay $300,000. Like, yeah, I probably wouldn't fail as a business owner. It would be very hard to do so. But that being said, so like you have these guys that, they're usually jacked, usually wealthy, they have a lot of cars, they have a lot of money, and they tell you this is how you get to where I'm at. And it's usually rooted in capitalism and pushing capitalism to a very exhausting degree, which I'm all about capitalism and free market. However, trying to perpetuate this pipe dream when the person behind the microphone has had the resources to get there is still lying. And then also to push 1950s traditional conservative role agenda also is wrong. Mm-hmm. And to tell women that they need to go back to a certain point in society where it's just them doing traditional things like cooking and cleaning, taking care of kids. Like, we're going back to the 1950s. Mm-hmm. Like, it's actually kind of wild that it's working on some people. And really, some people, it's really like, I would say it's probably mostly Gen Z or Gen Alpha women in terms of like that traditional conservative, mindset. Where for me, because like I'm single, but attracting my partner, my soulmate partner, and I want her to be successful in what she wants to be successful at. And I want her to really love what she does every day. And
so you're saying even if that is being a stay-at-home mom and
if that is a stay-at-home mom,
like,
if that's what you truly want,
not
because someone told you to do it,
right?
But if it's what you truly want, like choice is not an illusion. I think choice is very real and is what you want it to be. And some people that want to be a stay-at-home mom, go for it. If that's what you truly want and that's what makes you happy, go for it. But if you actually want to have a mix of both, where maybe you want a business and you still also want kids, but you also want that balance too, you deserve that. Mm-hmm. If you want to work 20 hours a week or something like that, and you want to create a digital product or journals, or you want to sell plants, you want a plant shop, go for it. It's just this consumeristic capitalism approach now to how to be a man, how to be a woman. And and I guess to go back to the red pillars, the red pill podcasters and these guys, they're jacked, they have a lot of money and cars, and they basically just try to push narratives of conservative traditions, but it's also a little sexist, because then it's it actually objectifies women. And it also, I think, hurts a lot of relationship building and creates a lot of division. And I don't know how people still don't see the writing on the wall. And it's usually because, if you have the money to cover up a lot of fucked up shit that people are doing behind the scenes, they don't see how fraudulent a lot of these guys are. Because a lot of these guys, like, they have a lot of sexual assault, like, cases against them. They have a lot of...
And so this is what the men of today are consuming constantly and then embodying, and it's...
Yeah, and I would say it's affecting more, like I said, younger generations. I think it's that Gen Z generation. I see a lot of good in them, and I try not to worry or instill fear, but I do worry about Gen Z with media manipulation and how we're brainwashing kids to think a certain way.
And we wonder why all of them have situationships, and it's all games.
Girl, tell me. Yeah, trust me. I had to get off. Hinge like a long time ago because of that shit. Like, it's
really?
just, yeah, it's pretty. Because I'm 28, so, like, you know, I was dating women older than me in their 30s who were also emotionally unavailable, and then I was dating.
That seems to be the theme. Yeah. It's like everybody has games, emotionally unavailable, situationship. Sure. Like,
it's the illusion that there's something better out there.
Yeah. And I guess social media did that, not only because everybody's so accessible now, but also the content everybody's consuming. Like, you get on TikTok, and I don't know how I got on this side of TikTok, but I was, for a while, was just like, so let me tell you the story about my situationship, or like all these things that I'm like,
or let me
what
tell
is
you
going on with the youth? Like,
or let me tell you how bad this date was.
Yeah. Well, and some people, I was thinking,
a
like,
guy or a girl on blast.
Yeah.
You know, and it's just like, I don't know. I have so much more respect for people than that. Yeah, it's almost like, and again, it's like the victim mentality.
Heal yourself, though, because like there's so many people, like you're saying, that are like going on these dates, or they're like serial dating, and they're like, oh, haven't found the one yet, and it's like, well, you're asking for all of these checklist items, and you yourself are not like embodying energy that would align with that. You know,
for sure.
Does that make sense?
No, it does, and I think part of that is, you think there's something better, like the grass is greener, and you're right, people haven't healed, you know, and they blame. I think what's the conscious coupling, you know, workshop masterclass that I'm working on, conscious coupling is to bring that mindset of like, if you're gonna say like, I hate all men or I hate all women, and like you think that all men or all women, they suck, that's what you're going to attract. And that's what people don't understand, is like, your words is like matter. Your words are like, in witchcraft, they're called spells. Religion calls it prayer. People that, you know, are just holistic, they call it mantras, or they call it affirmations. Yeah. You can affirm bad as much as you affirm good. Like, if you say my life sucks, your life will suck. And if you say my life's great, your life is great. It may not reflect right away, but in the 5D, which is a dimension you can't see, your life's great. And then eventually it trickles down to your 3D, which is the 3D reality that we're surrounded in this room. So
I said it right before this podcast. I was like, this is going to be a great interview. It's going to go flawlessly. And here we are. It is.
It is. And, you know, I'm grateful to have, you know, these conversations. And I think as long as like we create, because, you know, every force has an unstoppable force meets the immovable object. We're at that point now where the unstoppable force is the status quo. Red pill content, toxicity on social media, you know, greed and capitalism. I'm on a board for Mental Health Solutions. It's a company that dedicates resources to help, you know, people with mental health disorders and things of that nature. And one of the meetings was really amazing, because the person who ran the meeting was like, I'm running into a lot of people that just want to hustle. They don't want to have purpose. I'm like, that's what I'm in the business of. It's igniting your flame. It's creating your purpose. It's creating the ability to do what you want to do make a stable living and survive and thrive with your family, but also do what you want to do. And we're kind of, that unstoppable force right now is the status quo, where it's like kind of the greed, the anger. It's kind of those low level vibrations I talked about at the beginning of the show. And then the immovable object is where we are at. And we're coming to that hit point where that unstoppable force isn't gonna keep moving through, because that consciousness, that collective consciousness that's gonna raise, is the immovable object, and that's our love, our peace, and our bliss, and like our ability to connect with one another. But we have to connect with one another too, because isolation is, and that's another thing. Yeah, Red Pill keeps preaching, is like this isolation, and while men do thrive isolating themselves, like at periods of the day or maybe periods of the week, it's not healthy to do that all the time. It's good to be in community. And I think women actually understand that better, and women are really good at keeping good community with their friends and, stuff like that. So women, I think, create beautiful community. And I think that's why the divine feminine being activated is going to create a better earth.
Let's actually go into all of that, because you mentioned a couple of things. Like, you mentioned your book, Ignite the Flame, or Ignite Your Flame.
Yep.
And you also mentioned your Quantum Creators Program a little bit ago. So let's just dive into all of it. So if you can explain to that for the listeners what your Quantum Creators Program is, and then let's go into your book. And you actually have another book that's coming out for the littles, for the kiddos.
For the kids.
Which obviously. I love. I cannot wait to get a copy of actually both, but for sure the kid book, because I'm always encouraging my children to read more. So yeah, let's dive into that.
Yeah. So I'll start with I have this product pyramid. So I'll start with the freebie and then work my way up. So I have a newsletter. If you go to my Instagram, and you can pretty much sign up for my free newsletter, that, I have energy clearings weekly. Sometimes I won't. I'll just do a newsletter per month. I'll at least do one newsletter per month, but sometimes I'll do energy clearings and kind of some holistic mindset newsletter content that helps people hopefully just get an idea of what to expect with me. And I also have free meditations that come with the newsletter. So sometimes if you need a 5-minute breath work that calms you down, or you need a 15-minute safety creation meditation, something that.
And this is your voice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
So for everyone listening, if you've loved Cooper's voice this whole time,
I appreciate
these will
that.
be your meditations.
I do appreciate that. It's just funny. I do get a lot of compliments on my voice. I've looked into voice acting, actually, voiceover stuff, and
you should.
For some reason, maybe it's just overwhelm of trying to figure out what platform to figure out. But yeah, I don't know. I've loved.
Not too many people have a very calming, kind of velvety voice, you know? And I feel when you do, you definitely need to just run with it.
Yeah.
You know, for me, sure. I'm podcasting. Here we are.
Yeah. I do have the Weekly Coop podcast. I haven't put anything on it in a long time, just because I'm doing kind of the interview circuit. I'm going on other people's shows, which I kind of like that as a change of direction for me, but I'll probably get back into that at some point. I still got I want to say 200, 300 episodes on there. So if you want to check out the Weekly Coop, you can.
A ton.
Yeah, I've been doing it since 2020 maybe. 2020.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So you got right in there when the podcast boom was happening.
Yeah. I probably could have had a little more success if I operated it a little bit differently, but I was just kind of doing it for the fun, just trying to figure it out.
Maybe today is going to ignite your flame.
It definitely could. From a podcasting perspective, it definitely could. I love, I definitely want to, if I do jump all the way in back to podcasting, I definitely would want a studio. So, that's something I definitely would rather have down the line. And, I've also been thinking about where I want to be in life, and also just kind of focusing on personal life, where I want to live, dating and things of that nature. I'm kind of just trying to live the human experience more nowadays. So the podcast took kind of the step back of like everything I'm doing, just because I don't know. It's good to take breaks from things. Like I said, taking a step back.
I just took a break
not having this identity crisis, right? Taking a step back and being able to come back to it whenever you want.
I used to be so embarrassed when I would do stuff like that, but honestly, it is every time it's so necessary, and I feel like I build back stronger, or I decide to completely just pivot and not go back. So like, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah. So that's the freebie level. Low level, low ticket offering is my books. So you can go on Amazon. My books are all on Amazon. It's kind of just the easy way to do it. Whether you like or dislike Amazon, it's just the easiest thing to sell on nowadays. So that's where I'm at. So I got 2 poetry books. One is Virtues and Vices, and then The Good and the Evil is the second one. So that's like my poetic journey. And I'm going to have a third one eventually, but that's going to be my swan song. And I say that it's going to be my last poetry book I'll probably ever like write and publish. And I'm going to be like traveling Europe for that one, or I'll be traveling around the world for that one, because I want that to just like hit me like as a ton of bricks. Like I want that to hit me and inspire me when I'm just like not thinking about anything else, because I want that to be my best work, if not ever. I want that to be my best just creative work ever. So well, I guess it's not technically fiction because it is kind of about my life, but I want that to be like the perfect, you can pick it up and you'll be inspired no matter how many stanzas or how many pages it is. So I'm working on like, that's just like whatever, but I have those 2 poetry books, and then I have Grand Rising Universe. That is a daily text. It's like a motivational, devotional text, and it's like letters to the universe. So it's like Grand Rising Universe, and then like you read a page, you reflect on it. So that I think I wrote it like 2 years ago. Yeah, I think I published that like 2 years ago. I did it right after my breakup. I wrote that in 111 days, and it was just like my personal journey. You actually kind of learn a lot about me through that book, because you learn about, holy shit, he has like some wild questions, and I got those answers.
Yeah.
So those are my books. And then, so I got the children's story is called Brave Kids Volume 3. So I wrote a chapter in there. So I think it has images. I think somebody did some illustration as well. So mine is called, it's chapter 3, The Little Star That Could Shine. So basically it's about subconscious programming and like how parents actually do influence the kids' subconscious and conscious through what they say. So my story is about like this celestial being and this upbringing by the parents and how it affects how bright this star shines. So chapter 3, Brave Kids Volume 3, it comes out June 3rd. I want to say, I just had the launch call today. I should remember this, but you can join my launch team. I'll have the link in my Beacons like link tree on my Instagram. I'll have that done eventually. But yeah,
and it'll be available on Instagram, or I'm sorry, it'll be available on Amazon.
On Amazon, yeah. On Amazon. And then Ignite Your Flame is my mindset. It's kind of a memoir because it does have, I talk about cancer, tearing my labrum in college during football, and kind of becoming an alcoholic from that situation because I was like very depressed that I wasn't playing football. That was like my only ever injury I really had. And the abusive relationship that I was in, and how it molds together with how you create your passion. And my passion was to help people, because like I worked in technology for 5 years, so like it wasn't even like fully like going from technology to being like this spiritual guy, complete 180. So it's talking about like how the pain, you alchemize that pain to find your fire, which is your passion, what you love to actually do. Not that every day you wake up is going to be like, yeah, I want to do this, but you really enjoy the mundane things that you have to do with whatever you set your fire to. And the flame and I won't give too much away because I'm still editing it, but like the flame is really just like you having the flame for your purpose, your relationship with your significant other, having that fire for that person, having that fire for life. That's all it is. It's being able to wake up every day and to find that fire that fuels your day. So Ignite Your Flame, I'm going to come out with that at the end of this year. I'm pretty much almost done with editing it, which is great. It's going to be like 150, maybe 200 pages. So not like super duper long, but enough substance to help people. Mm-hmm. And the reason why I'm pushing it as hard as I am is because I'm doing a TED Talk at the end of October, and I'm doing it in North Carolina. And I will be doing this TED Talk on kind of a similar Ignite Your Flame format, but it's talking about leadership through love.
So it's like an in-person. Mm-hmm. Okay. Because you said North Carolina, so I figured it was like
I will be on stage physically.
Okay.
They have TEDx in St. Louis, but I honestly didn't even know about it because they don't market it. From what I've,
there's a lot of things that I feel go unmarketed in St. Louis that happen. Yeah. I'm like, what? I didn't even know that was going on, or
Right. No. So they have a TEDx in St. Louis, but I found this through. I had a business coach who helped me launch my business and launch my systems and like all the other stuff needed to start a business and not like fall on your face completely. I've fallen on my face a few times, but it's more just like self-inflicted with the sales side of things. But anyway, I had this, business coach. She helped create that product pyramid that I'm literally trying to progress through all my offerings with. And she knows people with TEDx. So she set up the meeting with the curator and, then I submitted the application, been accepted. So now it's like trying to figure out the speech part, and I'll have a coach and stuff, and it'll be recorded and put on TEDx for 50 million people if they want to watch it to watch it.
Amazing.
So yeah, it's good exposure. So I kind of want to follow up that momentum with the book itself. So that's why I'm trying to get it out like December. So I'll try to create like my launch team and the ARC readers and reviewers and stuff as quickly as I can. So yeah, so that is the books, the lower level stuff, and then that sweet spot where I'm at right now is the Quantum Creators Program. So that's like it's a mix between like life coaching, which I don't like the word life coach, but it's a mix between life coaching and hypnotherapy. And then if you want to experience Reiki, you can. So it's a mix of mental, spiritual, and physical. So not only do I help you with hypnotherapy and trauma healing, I can also help you with optimization of like your physical side of things and more of tune of getting sun, grounding, like kind of doing some like old time hippie stuff to help with your stress regulation. And I'm not a doctor, so I won't make like medical like advisement, but it's more just like kind of the simple things of like, getting adequate sleep and, getting sunlight and, stuff like, it's stuff that is very common sense, but a lot of people don't do it because they just don't, they're almost too overwhelmed to just take that first step. So it's like a micro shift. I firmly believe you have to micro shift. That's why like your life won't change in 30 days, but it could change in 30 weeks because like if you make these micro shifts over and over again every single day, and you just try to get 1% better every single day, you get your whole year looks a lot different. So it's a mix of the physical, the spiritual, and the mental, putting it all together. So, but yeah, you do those 2 hypnotherapy sessions, and Reiki if you choose to work on those trauma healing components of like your negative limiting beliefs. And if it's your alcoholism, your drug addiction is linked to lack of self-love. Same with your porn addiction. Same with eating addiction. Like, but maybe you just want to make more money. Well, you may want to make more money, but your nervous system's not going to be ready for that. If I give you $1 million today, your nervous system ain't going to be ready. So you're either going to shit it away on something unnecessary, or you're not going to know what to do with it, and you're just going to like still live in the toxic way that you're living. So
yeah, it goes into everything. It's poor money mindset, poor
yes,
time management. Yeah. Addiction.
Yeah. And reframing that is going through those. It's not a traumatic experience. Well, trauma is not like this catastrophic thing. Your parents denying you a toy as a child because they couldn't afford it. That's a traumatic experience. It's not your parents' fault, but it's still a traumatic experience because you learned, oh, I have to have money to have these things that are just, I mean, I just wanted this toy as a kid. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's just like all these other kids had them. So it's like, fuck trying to fit in. But I would at least like the capacity to just have things that I can give to my kids, or just have the essentials, like a house that is decently kept, has good living space, very essential things. But I feel like I am not worthy of that because of XYZ as a kid or a young adult. So it's like reframing that, which is a traumatic experience. It's just not catastrophic, but it's still traumatic. So then it's letting that go and believing you're worth getting paid just to exist. Mm-hmm. And then it'll come in different opportunities that you wouldn't even expect. So that's my program. And then, yes, I'm working on, I talked about the conscious coupling with a friend. I don't know when that will be out. Hopefully this summer is when we're working on it now as we speak, the curriculum. And it's going to be like an 8-week masterclass of her and I, like talking about our energetic side and trying to help people have a good mindset. And then we'll have spiritual exercises that you can do with your partner so it enhances the relationship. So yeah, we'll hopefully conscious coupling can be out summertime. So, and then, I mean, I'd like to do retreats and stuff. I don't have anything settled there, but that's once I have more financial security on my own end and I'm ready to lift off into that retreat, you know, aspect, I would love to have weekend oases for people.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's something on my to-do list for this year, is to do something like a retreat or.
For sure. Yeah. And it doesn't even need to be like, you know, I think one thing about, cause like I talk about my psychedelic usage and, you know, microdosing and stuff, and I don't do it every day, but just, you know, maybe a microdose here, microdose there, just kind of expands the consciousness and helps God channel through me. So, but anyway, with that being said, you know, I think this whole ayahuasca trend and stuff like that, and those like retreats in Costa Rica, there are certain people that need those for sure. But I do believe it's becoming a little too trendy, where it's sought out as like this whole, oh, look at me, I'm doing this to be more enlightened. At least that's from a guy that like really values the enlightenment piece and the spiritual piece. I think we have too many people doing this drug that could potentially be very life altering in terms of, it can be dangerous to like people that, because people go into psychosis after taking this sometimes. Like they'll leave their family, and like in a situation like where they don't even, like, there was no abusive partner, kids are great, and they were just like, oh, this wasn't meant for me. And they'll just like leave their family.
Wow.
After doing like ayahuasca. So,
wow.
I do think though, time and place for everyone and everything. I don't know if I'll ever do it, to be honest with you. I don't know if it's in my necessities, but I would love to do maybe not something that extreme, but I definitely love those like spiritual retreats where I have a friend, she does this thing called Camp Heart, and she does it for women, and she goes to like Orlando or Phoenix, and it's just like doing high vibe activities. Like I don't know if it's really psychedelic type of experience, but they do like, they go to raves together and do like girly stuff together. And crafts.
You had me at raves. So
yeah.
Okay, this is my kind of thing.
Yeah, I'll give you her information. She's from here, so she's
cool.
she's dope. Allison's her name. She's awesome. So I love stuff like that. You know, just like high vibe activities where you're just like with the girls, maybe with the guys, and you're just doing just like normal stuff. But then like you're maybe in a nice part of the world. Maybe like you're in Bali, maybe you're just like in the nice part of Florida. Who really cares? As long as like, yeah, just those high vibe activities with a good community, I think is really cool. It doesn't have to be, a psychedelic experience, but those retreats are also really cool too. Just depends on how you want to do it.
For sure. I love it.
Yeah.
Everything that you just mentioned that you have going on, though, can be found on your Instagram. That's kind of like the hub.
Yeah, I would say Instagram. TikTok is more of the unfiltered version of me, if you want that. I talk a lot of shit to people in my comments. Just because TikTok.
I feel like, TikTok, you got to.
TikTok brings out a lot of gremlins, so I try to have a little fun with it. But I'm on TikTok. Conscious Coop, same thing. Conscious Coop on Instagram. It's just like after Coop, there's an underscore for Instagram just to have that.
So Conscious Coop _.
Yeah.
For both TikTok and Instagram, or just
Instagram?
Okay.
Somebody took,
which I'll also list this in the show notes too for anybody that misses it.
Yeah, somebody took Conscious Coop, so I just put an underscore. I was like, all right, whatever. So, but on TikTok and YouTube, which YouTube I don't have much right now. It's just like my old podcast videos, but I do have. I'm gonna do like meditations for beginners that I'll post on YouTube, like little 5-minute videos and stuff like that to work on breath work. And I'm going to really revamp that channel and like have like a low commitment activity. Cause if I can't commit to just filming 30 minutes a day on meditation, then I'm being lazy because I have more to offer than that. So you can follow, but it's Conscious Coop on YouTube as well. I'm pretty much Conscious Coop anywhere. Facebook is Coach Coop Conscious Mentorship, which that's my bad. I don't know how to change my name on Facebook for that, but it's Coach Coop Conscious Mentorship, so it's a little bit different. But YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I'm trying to remember if I had anything else. I want to say that's about it.
Okay.
And then I got my newsletter. I got my podcast, The Weekly Coop, if you want to listen to old episodes of
soon to be new.
I will get back into it eventually.
And your website?
CooperHarrison.org.
Okay.
I almost forgot that, yeah. So my website is CooperHarrison.org. Finally, getting organized in that realm too. I'm also on LinkedIn. I'm not like hugely active on LinkedIn, but if you're more of a corporate person that wants to communicate with me, follow me on LinkedIn. It's just Cooper Harrison. There's like...
I feel like a black sheep on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a corporate person.
You got to find, yeah. Because like I was more on the corporate side. Now I have a lot of people approaching me from holistic side and coaching side and stuff. So that's pretty cool. It's Cooper Harrison. MBA is in there. CH is in there for certified hypnotherapist. Excuse me. And then I think RMT is also, I think it's Cooper Harrison, RMT, CH, MBA. I think that's what it is. Yeah. So Reiki, that's the Reiki certification. But yeah, that's pretty much how you can find me. I'm here in real life. So if I do see you around St. Louis, don't be a stranger. Would love to say hi to you. I'm very friendly. I try to have a smile on my face all the time, but if I do have a serious face, just if you give me a tap on the shoulder or whatever, I promise I get like less serious. But I really would love to work with more people, whether it's in person or virtual setting. I'm very open. Even if you live in St. Louis and want to work with me, I don't have an office right now for what I do, so I can do like virtual, or if you want to meet up somewhere, so open to that too. I've done house calls for Reiki here actually, so that's never uncomfortable for me. It's obviously always the comfort of the person, but
yeah.
I can do in person and I can also do virtual, and I do group sessions if wanted. Public speaking events I can do as well. It's just I'm very open to like just any sort of public speaking, energy work. I just want to tell everyone I love them in a different way and hug them in spirit, in person, and it could be with my soul, my heart, my arms, or hug them with my voice. It's showing love every step of the way to give that to others.
I think that's a perfect note to leave on.
Yep.
Even though I could seriously sit here and talk to you all day. So we're going to have a part 2 in the future.
Of course. Would love that.
We'll have to get
Absolutely.
you back on and do a part 2 for sure. But thank you so much for being vulnerable, sharing your story, and coming to talk to me today.
Of course.
This has been amazing.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
As always, I appreciate you all so much for listening. My goal is for these episodes to at least help one person in some aspect of their life. So if you like what you hear, don't forget to follow, like, subscribe to the show, as well as follow us on social media at Inside Voice Pod. Thanks.